So, if you missed it, a couple days ago we had a brand new sort of news conference from Disney at D23 where a bunch of new stuff was announced. I made a whole video on it yesterday, so if you want to go see everything that was announced, go check that out. But for today's video, I want to talk about the brand new Avatar movie we're getting, which of course is going to be called Avatar: Fire and Ash, and I kind of want to just give my thoughts on what I think we're going to get and what I think going forward in this weird James Cameron Avatar universe we should expect. Because like it or not, somehow, someway, Avatar is the highest grossing franchise, I think, ever. I mean, if you combine the entire MCU, obviously that wins, but the two Avatar movies we've gotten are number 1 and number 3 on the highest grossing movies of all time. This, in technical terms, is the biggest movie franchise in the history of the world. Therefore, this third movie is the biggest threequel in the history of threequels, and I think we all should be a little bit excited to see what James Cameron's been cooking. Now, obviously, Avatar 3, aka Fire and Ash, was filmed back-to-back with Avatar: The Way of Water. This movie filmed like 5 years ago, and it has been in post-production for a very, very long time, because as you know with these Avatar movies, they take a lot of time to make in post-production, because like 90% of the movie is CGI. So that's why this movie has taken a long time, and what can we expect from this movie? Well, if you remember in The Way of Water, that movie told a pretty kind of open and shut story about them assimilating into this new water community of Na'vi on Pandora, and dealing, of course, with the threats of the humans and everything going on there. Now, I expect this next story will continue that sort of journey with this water tribe and be kind of almost a part 2 to The Way of Water, as we're introduced to this new Fire and Ash Na'vi culture. James Cameron has already teased it that we're going to be introduced to a very kind of scary version of the Na'vi, an evil version of the Na'vi, this group that is not as kind and as happy and as hopeful, and the little bit of concept art we've gotten, they look terrifying. This looks like an absolute cult. They're jumping around a bonfire, doing some kind of ritual. These things look scary, and the idea of having Na'vi on Na'vi, Na'vi versus Na'vi, and telling almost kind of a darker story on Pandora is so exciting. Because this world of Pandora is so cool, and yet I feel like we've only scratched the surface with what's actually going on in this planet. We've had these forest people that live in the forest. Now we've had these water tribes in The Way of Water. Now we get to see a very, very different side of this planet. I also expect to see more of the story when it comes to Sully's daughter, the one that is played by Sigourney Weaver, hilariously, even though she's young. We're going to see more of her connection to the god of Pandora, to this living life on this planet, and how it also connects to, like, her birth. Because if you know from that movie, she had, like, a weird immaculate conception type of thing going on. So I think we'll get more answers to that, and I think we'll just get more of a big, epic action movie. This is going to be probably about 3 hours long, and it's probably going to make about $2 billion. And then we will have 3 Avatar movies, and then what's left? Now, James Cameron has announced that he wants to do Avatar 4 and 5, and I believe they have both been greenlit. Now, I'm not sure if that's where this story is going to conclude, but I would have to imagine that's where James Cameron is going to say goodbye to this franchise. He appears like he had structured this as 5 stories, and whether there's wiggle room for somebody else to come in and continue them, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think he said recently that he does have ideas on how to do a 6 and a 7, but he would probably leave that for other directors, and I'm sure Disney is just waiting and waiting and waiting to expand this into a massive franchise with television shows and multiple spin-off movies so they could just milk the absolute crap out of this franchise and make it terrible like they did Star Wars and Marvel. So we await that day patiently, and I just hope it never comes, let's just be honest. But we will be getting James Cameron's Avatar 4 and Avatar 5. 5, which should be this big epic conclusion, and 4, which has been talked about as one of the best movie scripts ever. James Cameron said years ago that when he had sent the studio the script for Avatar 2, they sent him about 10 pages of notes. When he sent them the script for Avatar 3, they sent them about 5 pages for notes, and when he sent them the script for Avatar 4, they simply replied with, "Holy shit." It's a movie that's going to have a very big time jump and apparently mostly take place on Earth. So we're going to see what Earth is like for the humans currently, and that is something that is very exciting to hear. That is going to be an incredibly different Avatar movie, and I can't wait for that. Those films should be filming very, very soon. They're going to be filming them back-to-back the same way that they did 2 and 3 back-to-back, and we should be getting them later in the decade. But what do you guys think of Avatar: Fire and Ash? What do you think of the title? Personally, I really like the title, The Way of Water. It kind of flows really nicely, and I remember there were a bunch of leaked titles that came out years ago, like literally 8 years ago, for what these movies would be called, and obviously this one has changed. It was not originally called Fire and Ash. But I really like this title in a way. I think part of it is kind of generic. It's almost like a generic fantasy book series. You just get, oh, Fire and Ash, Ash and Blood, you know. They kind of all have that same rhythmic type titling to their stories. This feels kind of like that. I feel like The Way of Water felt more kind of in line with that universe, but still, I am super excited. Let me know what you think of it down below, and yeah, subscribe for more.